Thank you so much. I'd like to start by saying merhaba. I am connecting to you from Darkunjung Kanju here up the Central Coast. I'm about 2 hours from Sydney. So greetings from Australia to you. Thank you so much to this organising group to be able to welcome our presentation about welcoming cities. I'd like to just say thank you to the distinguished guests for allocating time to listen to my presentation. I'd like to pay my respects to you and for your ancestors also. Some of the content I'm going to be covering is about migration and settlement here in Australia, particularly New South Wales, some of our challenges and opportunities that we face, particularly in the local government settings, and some of the benefits of welcoming city membership. What does it mean? How do we kind of benefit and co-benefit from this relationship? Diversity is our reality in welcoming cities. It's also my reality as a migrant to Australia. I migrated from Turkey. My family came here to Australia as workers. We were meant to be here for about maybe 2 or 3 years and go back to Turkey, but we ended up staying here. And, you know, over 30 years later, I'm still an active part of the Australian community. I'm a valuable contributor to my society, and I'm very appreciative of this country has welcomed me and made this country my home as well. So I'd like to thank them. As we know, we are currently a part of a very complex global system. A lot of things that are happening in the economic, climate, political space has direct impacts on our local governments. It has direct impacts at our communities and how they respond to these. Welcoming Cities really likes to focus much of their work on our local governments because they are best placed and connected to community, hence why we work directly with them. We see many benefits of migration into Australia. We're projecting in the next 35 years that it will support our economic growth. It will help with sustainable population growth. It will contribute over $1.6 trillion to Australia's GBT and enhance some of the cultural diversity that's already in this space. It will also support and revitalise local governments, local businesses and local services, which took a massive hit during the global pandemic back in 2020. So we're very working very hard to be able to rebuild and reconnect post after such a crisis as well. And we look forward to opportunities around funding and investment. When we're looking at building good settlement success stories, there are 7 different building blocks that we'd like to consider when we think about people settling into our areas. First is having a great, strong settlement strategy, having a plan, coming together and discussing what it looks and feels like as we start this journey. It looks like your ministry and local governments in your area are already having these wonderful discussions over many years now, and it's great to see this kind of investments that's happening there. We have been looking at settlement practices for at least the last 80 years. My community, the Turkish community, came here over 45 years ago, and settlement looked and felt very different back then to what it looks like now. We look at settlement strategies as a way and a tool to be able to collaborate, co-create and plan together. To do that, obviously, we will need to do a lot of consultations with local communities, listen to them. I know that was already talked about earlier today. Active listening is a really important part of consultation. It's not just about taking information from community and feeding into your strategies and plans, but it's about consulting to make sure what they've said is part of those strategies. They can open up those documents and open up those plans and say, yes, what I discussed, what I brought up is actually part of my plans. It's a part of this document. And they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel like they are contributing to this journey together. Welcoming and hosting new migrants is a very complex space. Here in Australia, we have over 200 language groups that come with all different cultural nuances, and that's just global language groups. We also have over 300 First Nations language groups and country represented here on this continent as well. So navigating this notion of what welcoming and hosting migrant communities is a very heartfelt experience. When we talk about welcoming, it's not about how we think that people should be welcomed. It's about understanding these communities, understanding what makes them feel welcomed. Is it food? Is it music? Is it conversation? Is it sitting together? Is it sharing culture together? So it's a very complex dynamic, and it's one that will really benefit from investing into in a very deep way. People can't settle into countries, into spaces without secure employment. It's very important to have really strong relationships with employers to make sure that employment aspects are there and ready for them. And that goes hand in hand with secure housing. In Australia and in many parts of the globe, we have a housing crisis. Where do people live? How do they find accommodation when they need to go to work and support their communities in that process? Fostering community cohesion, as it was always already mentioned. Rita, thank you for bringing that up. Global conflicts makes it very challenging, but it's a work that we need to really be vigilant in, and to really cultivate and activate community cohesion, and to be really committed to that long journey. It's not just when crisis happens then we look at community cohesion. It should also be in the quiet time too. What does that look like? To celebrate together, celebrate successes together, to listen to stories together. That's a very important part of keeping community cohesion strong and resilient as well. Considering cultural customs and environment, Australia is a very evolving space. People have various different cultural nuances. We take this learning slowly, gently, with a deep commitment as well. There are many challenges, but yet opportunities at the same time. When you look at the map of Australia, as you can see in blue, many people like to live on the fringes of Australia. We have great beaches. I don't blame them. But we also have a lot of populations that reside in our Melbourne, Sydney, Western Australia, Darwin, Brisbane. And as you go inland, those communities become smaller, much tighter into our rural spaces. That can be a lot more challenging to bring diverse communities into those spaces, with communities that might not already be familiar with a lot of different diverse cultures. So it takes a lot more investment when we're looking at moving people into rural and agricultural areas as well. And it's important that we do that because our agricultural areas are really important economic parts of our Australian fabric and our Australian journey. And it's important that we also make sure that we are investing in that social cohesion aspect of those building of relationships. Local governments, we work very close to local governments because local governments already have very dynamic plans and strategies. They have economic strategies, they have multicultural strategies, they have diversity strategies, and they already are on that journey of making sure that communities that come into their local government areas to work, to be there for recreational purposes, to study, they feel included, that social inclusion is a part of their 10-year projections and delivery. Welcoming Cities is a national network of cities. We roughly have currently about 94 welcoming cities here in Australia alone, but we have internationally over 250 local governments and municipalities that are part of this network. We are very proud of the fact that welcoming cities are also represented in places like New Zealand, UK, and France came on board during the Olympics, Mexico, Canada, United States. It's a very robust network that actively connects to one another, actively learns from one another, and shares that learnings together. And that's something that really adds to our growth. I might want to really flag and highlight at this point that each welcoming city has their own origin story, and each welcoming city has a different format. I just came back from New Zealand and visited them, and it was wonderful to see that they are definitely fostering cohesive, welcoming communities, but they do it in a very different way. We also had the US counterparts come and visit us here in Australia, and when we spent 2 weeks during that exchange, it was wonderful to learn how they implement these practices within their own countries, because they take into account the formation of those countries, the dynamics of those countries, and looks at the structures of what works best there. I've also added in that link if anyone would like to hear about Australia's welcoming journey. We just celebrated our 10 years, and it really chronicles what that story looks and feels like. Many local governments, we have in Australia 537 councils, which 55% of those councils are rural, regional, and remote councils. Our councils vary in size and shape. We have councils in Queensland that are 1.2 million in population, and rural councils that can be 5,000 in population. So it really is a vast range of local governments that we're working with through the Welcoming Cities Initiative. And we make sure that with those relationships, we invest to a deeper understanding of what they need. What is it that they do, and understand their journey so we can work out how we can support that. Councils, yes, they look after sewage and infrastructure, childcare, sometimes immunisation, supporting elderly facilities, sporting facilities, cultural facilities, but they do so much more. And I know it was touched on around what councils do to provide their communities with information about mainstream services like your healthcare sector, your education department, your emergency drills. I mean, I loved hearing about the emergency drills that are happening over there. I would love to hear a lot more about it as well. It's really important to understand that local governments play a touch point where community can connect to anyone else or any services else that are in their area through local governments. And that's such a wonderful relationship that they have within their community. Welcoming Cities is growing. As I mentioned, we have 94 members within this country, which is over 53% of our current population. And that number is growing every month. More and more councils are seeing the benefits of connecting to these regional and metropolitan councils to learn from one another. It's wonderful and very heartwarming to see that there is a rapid uptake from local governments into these kind of initiatives. Some of our councils that have also been credited have gone through an accreditation stage, have been Albury, Logan, Unley, Hobart. These councils that you see logos of, you're seeing a logo, but what you're not seeing is that these councils have made long-term commitments on this welcoming and inclusion journey. They are implementing their work within their own strategies, within their own direction, within their own funding rounds. They are making sure that their commitment is public, it's visible, so they can be held accountable and be transparent of the kind of welcoming they want to create within their local communities. Why do they become welcoming members? What some of the main reasons why local governments become Welcoming Cities members is because there is that knowledge sharing. There is that opportunity for partnership development. We share and celebrate success stories, and we also look at accountability and transparency through the standard and accreditation process.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but could you please wrap up in 3 minutes?
Of course I can.
Thank you.
If you want to go through the presentation, please do so. I've got more to highlight, but I want to just flag our Welcoming City standards. This standards allows governments to look at basically a recipe, a step-by-step way of what this welcoming might look and feel like, and gives you tools and gives you practices and case studies to be able to learn about what this process might look like when you implement it within your own area. These are some of the categories that we like to focus on. My favorite is the spaces and places. If I walk through a local government area, can I see who are the people that live there? What are the businesses like? What is some of the output and some of the benefits of coming into that local area? We also provide many different resources. Much of these resources are developed and co-created by local governments themselves. So we don't give them tools. We say, here is a particular issue. Can we unpack this with you? Can we learn? Can we provide resources for any newcomers in the local government space so they can also pick up some of that work and grow from that as well? I'm lucky enough to work with also welcoming universities, welcoming workplaces, welcoming clubs, which look at universities, sporting leagues and workplaces around having a comprehensive idea what welcoming looks and feels like within a community. It's not just the local government's responsibility. It's a community, a collective, a collaborative approach to making sure that we're all part of making the communities we want to be part of. Again, I mentioned we've made all these wonderful resources. This development of these resources have been co-authored by local governments themselves. I'd love for you to have a look at it. And if you've got anything similar in your areas, I would love to see them as well. Learning from each other is such a wonderful way to make sure we can support this work that we're doing no matter where we are. Here are some information that you can go to if you'd like to learn a bit more. I want to make sure that we've got enough time for the next presenter. I've got my details down there as well. Can I see an envisaging and hopeful welcome in Japan? Absolutely. If you want to have further discussions, please connect with me. I would love to further this conversation, and I want to commend your incredible work that you're doing over there. Thank you so much.